been 1 full year now since we purchased our SS 1LE last November. Now this car has been through its paces and we have done a ton of modifications to this car, but now as it sits here today, it is actually stock. So in today's form, I'm going to do a full 1 year review and go over everything that I loved about this SS 1LE and why I think it might be the perfect fit for you guys to purchase going into 2021. So the first thing that I really want to cover here is one of the most important parts about this car, and that's the LT1 engine underneath the hood. This has 450 horsepower and 450 foot-pounds of torque, and it is a monster on the road, and it can also keep up with some of the fastest cars on the racetrack as well. So if you're into HPDE or you like carving mountain roads, this engine will keep up with some of the faster cars out there, and it's really going to come down to how comfortable you are as a driver and your own skill level. And that leads me on to my second favorite part about this car. The suspension itself is extremely dynamic. Not only do you have multiple different drive modes that change up these multimatic dampers, but you also have camber that can go all the way up to -2.5 and to -2.3 in the rear without any additional modifications added to the car. This is going to keep the tires glued to the road and will really help you feel confident no matter how hard you're pushing this car or what setting you put the car into. Now coming around to the side of the car are these OEM SS 1LE 20-inch wheels, and they look fantastic on this car, and in my opinion these are some of the best factory wheels that come on any car today, and they just really kind of fit the entire aesthetic. Not only that, is they're able to fit these massive rotors and brakes inside of this caliper. Now these being 20 inches allow GM to run a much bigger caliper inside of these wheels, and the braking force behind this car is incredible. You feel the rush go straight to your head as soon as you step on it. The only thing that I would recommend if you guys are looking to track this car is just upgrade to some higher temp brake pads and upgrade your fluid, and then you are set to go. There's really no need to do any significant upgrade to the wheels or the brake system on this car because it is so good right out of the box. Now, if we're looking at the side profile, you'll notice one of the biggest complaints that a lot of people express about the Camaro SS 1LE, and that's this low sloping window right here. And what's claimed is that you don't have a lot of visibility when driving around. And what I can say is over a year's worth of ownership, it really was never an issue for me at all. I constantly knew exactly what was in my blind spots. Yes, the window's a little bit small, but that adds to the driving experience as a whole. It feels like you're almost sitting in a fighter jet, the way you look out the window and the way these lines go down the car. So overall, I wouldn't let that deter you at all for going and checking out one of these cars for yourself. Now moving around to the back, you can see from this angle how massive those rear quarter panels are, and that's so important when you're trying to fit a wider tire underneath the rear of this car. Now looking down below here, we actually have a NPP exhaust, which means it's dual valve, and I found myself using this on multiple occasions. Now let's show you guys a few clips of the NPP exhaust, both in touring mode and in sport and in track, and see if you guys can notice a difference for yourself. What I can say, for a stock exhaust, this does sound pretty loud, but over the ownership of this car, I would probably suggest upgrading the exhaust just to get that throaty V8 sound that we all love. Now I really hope the audio is able to pick up the sound difference between touring and sport mode. We just did revs at 2,000, 3,000, and 5,000 RPMs, and I can tell you that it really does make a big difference. And just having that V8 sound just feels right. The car performs well, and the sound matches that performance. So I love that they included an NPP function to be able to switch on and off the valves to make the car quieter when you need it and loud and aggressive when you want it to be. Now, what would be a 1 year review without some driving impressions of our Camaro SS 1LE? And I want to start with what surprised me the most about this car, and that's the magnetic ride suspension. It's so crazy to me how compliant it is as a daily driver in touring and sport mode. I mean, the car really soaks up every single bump and doesn't even come close to breaking your back. But when you go ahead and you take this car on track and you push it into the track modes, the car becomes an entirely different animal. I mean, the suspension firms up and the car feels glued to the road around every single corner. It's truly amazing to me what Chevy was able to really engineer into these magnetic ride suspension dampers. It's truly incredible. And next up for me is really the transmission of this car. It's so incredible. The gearing itself and every single shift feels nice and crisp as you're going through second to third to fourth. It just feels right. It's so hard to explain. You really just need to get out and go for a test drive yourself, and hopefully you'll notice and have the same experience I did. I mean, I absolutely love this shifter inside of this car. And then finally, it's the overall cabin and driving experience. I really think Chevy nailed this when it comes down to optional red seat belts, Alcantara steering wheels and shift knobs, and everything that you're looking at from a driver's perspective is geared to just focusing on the road ahead. I mean, there's nothing else that you could really ask for in a sports car. This is truly what I believe represents a V8 pony car that is a true driver's car. I mean, this car makes you work to put down the power. It's got all of the driving modes that you need to go fast around a racetrack. And it's just a car that I could recommend to anybody out there that's looking for a car that you can grow with. I mean, to reach the limits of a Camaro SS 1LE, the bar is so incredibly high if you're going to be tracking this car. It's easily more capable than I am, and it's just something that I think that you need to go out and test drive for yourself. And if you already own a Camaro SS 1LE, take it to a racetrack. Feel what this car is able to do, because the mechanical grip of these tires is just wild to me. I mean, it's just something that you really need to check out for yourself. What I can say is, if you're looking for a rear-wheel drive sports car and your budget's right around 35 grand, you can't go wrong with this Camaro SS 1LE. And that's just really coming from my 1 year ownership of this car, my track days. It just performed flawlessly, and it really hasn't even skipped a beat once. So if you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We have some massive news and a big update for the channel coming up next week, and you're not going to want to miss it. So until then, build, break, repeat, and we'll see you guys in the next video.